An interesting perspective there by Dorcas Wangera. Thank you very much for that one. Now, street families in Nairobi have written, or rather recited, a letter to President Uhuru Kenyatta asking how long it'll take for the street families' rehabilitation fund to reach them. KTN's Habiba Ali tells us what is in the letter and why they decided to send the president this message.
42-year-old Jane Njoki, popularly known as Mama Shiro, a mother of 4 and a grandmother to 3, had only one place to call home since her husband died in 2009. Mutindwa dam site, the base as Mama Shiro refers to it. Her typical day, that of a scavenger. This is to make sure her children have something to buy once they are back from school in the evening. It's past noon and today seems like a good day for Jane and her children. Some bananas for the afternoon. Other times though, not as lucky. Mama Shiro is not alone in this. 20-year-old Mary Njoki came to the base when she was only 5 years old. She tells us she's not comfortable at the base at all.
Sisikii nimeshiba. Mtoto wangu hajashiba.
Mary Njoki wishes for only one thing, a secure future for her 2-year-old son. Their plea is summarized in form of a message to the president.
Dear Mr. President, hii ni barua kwako kutoka bezi ya Mutindwa. Tunataka utusaidie, tumekuwa tukiteseka, chakula, mavazi na hata place ya kukaa. Tumekuwa tukidhulumiwa hadi mili yetu imekuwa hatuna afya. Tunataka kuuliza swali moja. Tutaishi hivi hadi lini?
The members of these street families are just as puzzled as the rest of the country because there is supposed to be a street families rehabilitation fund board to look into their interests. It was formed in 2003 and formally registered in 2011. It now falls under the Ministry of Devolution and Special Programs with 9 board members. The government sets aside between 100 to 150 million every year towards this trust fund, with the private organizations also making their contributions. But where does this money go?
There are those children who are in the streets because situations at home drive them to the streets. Poverty, domestic violence, orphanhood, and many other situations that actually drive them to the streets. So those are genuinely in the streets. So you invest money in those ones, and definitely you're going to see a major impact in investing in those children.
And as the vagaries of weather beats on them day and night, they live on. Each one of them hoping that one day they will have a real roof above their heads and a real bed on which to lay their tired heads on. Habiba Ali, KTN.
Now, Taita Taveta would not feature anywhere near the top of the list of the rich counties in Kenya. But unknown to many outside the county, the area of Mwatate has for years yielded some of the most rare and beautiful precious stones. Most miners there have been digging for years, yet they themselves remain poor. KTN's Yvonne Okwara tells us the story of the miners of Mwatate.
Digging and more digging, then sieving. This is the daily routine of Mwatate miners under the scorching sun and rugged terrain. Their efforts and toil are evident when you tour the area. Large mines dug almost with bare hands, digging for the riches buried beneath the earth, the gemstones. At first, one can easily mistake the gemstones for pebbles like any other, but only the residents here seem to know the value.
On my side. Yeah.
Mary Musau, the only woman at this mining site, has reported here every morning for years, as if her life depends on it. Because it does. Armed with a single metal rod, complemented by her bare hands, she digs, hoping to find a gem large enough to earn her a lifetime fortune. On a good day, Mary and her siblings can walk away with up to 2,000 shillings, and other times as little as 50 shillings, depending on the size of the gem they get. Most of what they earn does not match up to the effort they put in.
Kazi ni ngumu sana. Nataka moyo. Pia vifaa vya kutumia kazini inakuwa na shida sana. Kama vile kuchimba, wakua huku chini na matatizo sana.
And being in the bushes does not help at all, as they encounter wild animals such as snakes almost every day. On the other side of town, the brokers are busy negotiating over the day's collections. Converging from as far as Tanzania and other neighboring countries, they come here to get the raw gemstones. The stones are priced by their size and color, and here the brokers say the price is not fixed, ranging from 5,000 to 20,000 Kenya shillings. A look at international pricing: 1 carat of pink tourmaline goes for $200, while a carat of green tourmaline is $110, red tourmaline at $250. And one of the most rare gemstones, tourmaline Paraiba, goes for $30,000 per 0.8 carats, keeping in mind that 1 carat is 0.2 grams. Gabriel Mcharo, a mine supervisor and broker, says their major challenge is the Kenyan market. He believes the gems would do better if a market was created.
Tumeishi katika hali ya kunyanyaswa. Kama hii tourmaline sahi kwa sahi ndugu zetu wa Tanzania ndo wananunua kwa wingi. Na ile bei wanalipa wana transport, wanatoa Kenya wanaipeleka Tanzania. So wao ndo tuseme wamesababisha tukajua imaya ya tourmaline ikiwa na soko.
Other than a market, other challenges include working tools and lack of government support. However, even from the little they get, the majority of them have been able to support their families.
Nikipata pesa huwa napata kwa wingi. Niko na watoto wawili high school, form 2 na form 3. Na niko na familia watoto 4. Na pale porini niko na wenzangu 8 ambao nawasimamia chakula na maji.
The miners are calling on the government to invest in the business, saying it would create good revenue once its full potential is realized. Yvonne Okwara, KTN.
The ironies of life in that story there by Yvonne Okwara. Now, an 88-year-old man from Nyahera location in Kisumu County is tonight pleading with the government to tell him the whereabouts of his son. Nikano Otieno says his son, a Kenya Air Force serviceman, was committed to life imprisonment for participating in the attempted coup of 1982. But ever since the sentencing, the man has never been seen again. KTN's Patrick Amimo has that report for us.
Octogenarian Nicanor Otieno shared his tribulations with the KTN crew at his home in Dagothi village, Nyahera location in Kisumu County. He held on tightly to the picture of his son, James Bondo Otieno, as he went down memory lane. Otieno says he has not seen his son for over 30 years now.
Alipokuwa kisoma, alikuwa kitumainia kujoin jeshi.
The son realized his dream and joined the Kenya Air Force. On August 1st, 1982, junior officers from the then Kenya Air Force staged a coup to topple former President Daniel Moi regime. The late senior private Hezron Ochuka led the coup as the chairman of self-styled People's Redemption Council. The Kenya Army and the GSU paramilitary crushed the coup after 6 hours of battle. The court-martial of the servicemen began in September 1982. Some were convicted and sentenced to death and hanged in 1987. Others were committed to life imprisonment without parole, and the rest given prison terms of between 10 and 20 years. Nicanor Otieno says his son was among those jailed for life.
Alikuwa kamiti maximum. Na wakati wa kesi, walifanya kesi kwanza, alafu kesi ikawa drop, na nikafanya appeal. Sasa appeal nilikuwa nikiitwa kwenda Nairobi. Wakishafanya wanahairisha siku fulani.
The old man believes his son is still alive.
Wale walionyongwa nguo zao zilifikishwa nyumbani makwao, lakini mimi sikupata. Ndio sababu mimi naamini kuwa angali hai. Na baba kifariki, nguo zake ningezipata.
We called Naivasha Maximum Security Prison to find whether James Bondo Otieno is an inmate.
We are not able to get him, Yeah, he is not in our custody.
And at Committee Maximum Security Prison, This is what the officer in charge said about our search for the co-prisoner.
Huyu jamaa James Bondo awe ni mwanajeshi wa 82, watu wa 82 wote walifungwa. Highest was 14 years kwa rekodi ya kamiti. Aliyefungwa zaidi ni Kinyonga na alikuwa yule jamaa ambaye alinyongwa.
Yule Ochuka na mwenzake yule.
Ochuka na mwenzake. Wale wengine wote the highest was 14 years na wote washaachiliwa. Hatuna yoyote mwanajeshi wa mwaka wa 82 aliye katika gereza letu.
The prison authorities promised to assist in tracing the whereabouts of James Otieno.
Mumefanya muwezalo na mimi pia niwafanyie utafiti upande wangu, alafu kisha baada tuseme by Tuesday nitakuwa nimepata information.
The old man made an appeal to the government.
Kubali nimuone tu ikiwa bado angali haja naye. Ni muda sasa amepita wakati wa mama kazi. Wamrudishe waniletee nyumbani nitamzika hawa nizike.
Without pension, Otieno is now poor and helpless. His 28-year-old daughter Anne Owuor is the one who shoulders the responsibility of taking care of her aging father. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
You're watching KTN Weekend Prime this 19th day of April 2014. We want to take a short break. Much more news after the break. Stay with us.
Just ahead, KTN's Job Center.
You are watching KTN Weekend Prime.
Tonight on our Jobseeker segment, KTN's Joy Doreen Bera tells the story of Moses Macharia, who has a diploma in broadcast journalism, but has for the last 3 years been selling potatoes in Githurai market. Here's Macharia's story.
Moses Macharia gets up and heads to Githurai 45 market every day. He pays 30 shillings for a small space in which he sells Irish potatoes to retail customers. After a hard day's work, he earns about 400 shillings only. This he has done for the last 2 years.
Na nunua tunauziango na hapa hivi chini with those people who sell by wholesale, and sometimes when it gets expensive we just go for them from Marigiti, then tunakuja tunauza per day wanga nauza gunia moja.
Macharia has got a diploma in broadcast journalism, but since his graduation in 2011, finding a job has been in vain, leaving him no option but to do an informal job to put food on the table and pay the bills.
This one is that bob, this one 60, this one 120, this one 250, this one which I'm sitting on 300, this one 400. In future I want to be a radio presenter, yes, especially in a vernacular radio station. I'm good in my language, that is Kikuyu, and I hope one day I will be there.
On a good day, Moses Macharia makes at the most 400 Kenya shillings, and that is when he is busiest over the weekends. But when we arrive at Githurai 45 market, it has rained, and you know the whole place is very damp. It's maybe very difficult for some of his customers to reach him because of the stall at which he operates.
The most that he saw of a broadcast environment was a few months' internship in the radio field at the national broadcaster KBC's vernacular station years back. Some of his peers now look at him as a failure in his current state.
For instance, a lot of challenges. For example, you just get someone who you were schooling with, akona job poa, lakini mkikutana tu unaona anakurenga, tena wenye mnafanya na wao huku hivi unaona wanakuignore, wanaona kama hujasoma. Kuna mtu mwingine aliniambia, "Oh Mose, kama umeenda shule na hujapata job, I don't see any different of me sikwenda shule, yeye sasa hakwenda shule na mimi nilienda shule." So, you know, it is somehow hurting, but you just hope one day things will change.
Nonetheless, his daily customers have come to appreciate him for his show of respect and dedication.
Tulikuwa naye na tunaona alikuwa na kisomo, na tunamuombea Mungu ampe kazi.
So to encourage him in not giving up on his dream of becoming a journalist, KTN Job Center set up a meeting with KTN's investigative editor, Mohammed Ali, whose journey to the journalism industry was one motivated by persistence.
What does it take for one to be a good journalist?
It's all about dedication. If you want to be a good journalist, you look at all the angles of the story, all the sides of the story. Personally, I believe in the three sides of the story: your side, my side, and then the truth. And the other thing that you should also consider is putting God first all the time.
Moses Macharia, at 24 years old, is not giving up on his dream of journalism yet. He says he's going to keep trying. Joy Doreen Bira, KTN Job Center.
I am Moses Macharia Kimani. I'm 24 years old and I am a journalist by profession. I have a diploma in broadcast journalism. I am looking for a job as a radio presenter or in a media house.
It really does indeed take persistence for that young man. We definitely wish him the best. A diploma in broadcast journalism and selling potatoes. I mean, you know, he's really doing the best he can under the circumstances. Sadly, it's the story of many Kenyans in this country. Right. Let's celebrate an employer this evening, and our employer of the week tonight is a medium enterprise in the tourism industry, making a difference in the lives of Kenyans. Kibo Safari Camp is located at the National Park in Amboseli and employs over 200 Kenyans, both directly and indirectly. They started with the objective of giving Kenyans the experience of their own heritage. Kibo Safari Camp prides itself in offering an opportunity to all Kenyans to take a trip outside the ordinary without having to struggle to afford it.
Kibo Safari Camp employs permanent employee of about 60. And we also have a quite number of casual workers, depending on the season. We reduce, sometimes we increase, depending on the workload. For example, now as we approach Easter, we are having more than 100 casuals at Kibo Safari Camp. Besides that, we also have a backup. We have quite a number of trainees on attachment. So that can make the number come up to around 200 employees.
It's time for some inspiration now, and tonight we get it from a man who grew up in the remotest of villages in Transmara, had his first education as a herds boy at the age of 5, and went to school for the very first time at the age of 9. However, this Maasai herds boy has grown to become one of the most respected educationists in the country. Professor James Olekiapi told Joy Doreen Bira about his big break.
People were not going to school. But my dad, because he came from an area, you know, we were the Maasai who moved away from Wasingishu down to current Maasai land, Transmara. So when we left there, my father had a limited interaction with the colonialists in the early 20s, 30s. And so when we went to where we are now, there was a kind of a feeling for him to send kids to school. So my brother, my oldest brother, was the first one to go to school in that area. So I really wanted to go to school for some strange reason. I remember I even went to a witch doctor one day, the one who used to play these stone things, marbles, and to tell you your future, predict your future. And I remember asking the fellow, tell me, am I going to school? And I was a little boy of about 9 years. I felt like I should be in school. And he actually played around and said, yeah, you're going to school. I didn't even know what high school was. I was just a rural boy trying to find a direction. But this guy said, you're going to university. And university is like the topmost place you go for in terms of formal learning. And from that day, if you're looking for a moment, from that day, I knew I had to go to the top place in formal learning. And there were several triggers, actually. It was not even one. That was one trigger. The other trigger was when, out of nowhere, I did my CPE. That time it was called CPE, Certificate of Primary Education, not KCPE that we have today. And the results came, and I had maximum scores, and I became a little, a village hero. It's like I was going to Nairobi. No, but Nairobi was just this imaginary place, like beautiful, nice place. So I said I was going to Nairobi because Alliance High School was close to Nairobi. And I think that is then when I knew wherever people go, I'm going. I was very courageous. I was really courageous, even as a small boy. I never allowed anything to come in, like in between me and what I wanted to do. I will do it anyway. And if I got the results, very well and good. If I didn't get the results, I would try again. But I would not give up. Even today, I don't give up. Education in its finest expression is truly the excellence of everything that we are, wherever we come from. So when you hear Lupita Nyong'o say, the dream of every child, wherever they come from, is valid, what she's really saying is that no matter where you come from, if you put yourself on the course and you push yourself, whether you are a Maasai, Kikuyu, or Giriama, whatever you are, your culture becomes part of that education that we are talking about. Kids a child in Korogosho or Kibera who succeeds and goes to a national school or even a top school and finally go to university, my God, the education there is unbelievable. True.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, in 2012, Caroline had a series of sore throats that led to her being diagnosed with rheumatic heart disease. She had to have one of her heart valves replaced. But just as she was preparing for her surgery, she lost her job and life suddenly changed for her and her daughter. Here's the story of Caroline and her daughter.
When she was 19, Caroline got pregnant with her first and only child, Doris.
She got pregnant. She would even have maybe opted to give me up or do something, but she didn't. She kept me, and maybe that was God working.
It is said that children are a blessing. That is a belief Caroline can attest to. The two have developed a relationship that only a single mother and her child can understand. Doris is her daughter, but at the same time, Caroline's best friend. This bond has not wavered even during the most trying of times when Caroline found out that she had rheumatic heart disease.
Because people had already told me that I have AIDS, you're not going to make it. Others have told me, do this, yeah? It's the right time you call a lawyer, start writing a will.
She needed a valve replacement and quickly. She says doctors scheduled her for an operation 6 months from the day she was diagnosed. All the while, her condition started to take its toll on her daughter.
Got to the point where I got sick. I got ulcers, really bad ulcers. But through it all, I think God was just there with me. And He supported me. Like, I remember my lowest moment was one day I came from school and Mom was around, so I found her in the house. I don't know if she had collapsed or what, but when I called her, she wasn't responding. She was in bed. I remember she was weak, totally weak. She was cold. As in, the cold, when you hold someone, you're like, seriously, no. Then I was so scared. I thought, this is it, this is the end.
Because of this, Caroline decided not to wait for her scheduled surgery and instead started to make plans to go to India as she was collecting funds for her treatment. At the time, she thought her salary and savings would help with some of the amount needed, but she got fired only a few months later. The reason? She could only go to work some of the time, and her bosses didn't like that. In order to survive day-to-day living, she and her daughter had to move from Nairobi to Kiambu County, where life was a little less expensive.
But for me, I was so focused. I knew that there is no way God could give me such a major challenge, and even others, and just leave me. So I kept on calling him and telling him, please, please, please walk with me.
Her prayers seemed to work. Her friends collected 800,000 shillings of the 1.2 million shillings that she needed for her treatment. And as they continued to give what they had, she went to India. Everyone thought that all would be well and that the two could get back to living a normal life.
In January, unfortunately, Dori started having some asthma attacks whereby she could collapse in school. Then I'm called in school and I'm told that, I'm called from school that your daughter collapsed, you need to come and maybe take her to the hospital. This time my heart was also having some issues, so I used to take a day at a time and try and relax. But after I did several tests, I realized sometime in August, I realized there was an issue because I could see I'm totally getting unwell. And I needed to know what the problem was. So I did some scans and I sent them to my doctor in India, and he advised me it was important for me to go back. So unfortunately, that time I still don't have a job and I have to go back to India. I need money. So once again, is to call out for a fundraising, ask people to come together and raise for me. And that time we didn't even have an exact figure of how much money we needed.
When Caroline went to India, she learned something about herself, that she had the ability to connect with people, deeply connect with people and help them through their trials. When she came back home and recovered, she used this ability to help those around her. As long as they were going through a trauma, Caroline was there.
When I got sick and having gone through what I went through, I decided I have to be there for other people. I have to tell people there's hope. There's willpower in fighting. You also need to fight because this is a battle you need to fight till the end. So till you finish your race.
It's not just Caroline who was changed by the experience.
Other kids will tell me, you're strong. But in the real sense, I think what happened to me and what the experience I went through made me grow up much more fast than any other kids around me. So, and it wasn't a good experience. I wouldn't even want it on my worst enemies because you have to learn so many things in such a short span of life. It's as if you've just slept and when you wake up, your life is different.
Catherine Wando for the Survivor Series.
Well, a very good evening and a warm welcome to KTN Sports Today Weekend Edition. I'm Lane Washira. We kick off the bulletin in Mombasa, where St. John's Kaloleni and Narok High School joined the roll of honor in the annual Kenya Secondary School Term 1 Games. Kaloleni captured their maiden title with a 5-0 thumping of Kap Koilel as the Brookside National Secondary School Games ended today in Mombasa. Newcomers Narok High also pulled a major surprise, stunning defending champions Friends School Kamusinga to clinch the boys' hockey trophy.
Backed by a partisan crowd, the home team turned on the style to blank up Kolei Girls 5-0 in the final and send the crowd into a frenzy at the final whistle. This is the first time the National Hockey Trophy has been won by a coastal side since the inception of the competition in 1982. The boys' hockey final had its own surprise package before the match. Defending champions Friends School Kamusinga looked all confident and fired up ahead of an unfancied opponent, Narok High. But at the end of the match, it was Narok School doing a jig after snatching a 1-0 victory. This was Narok's first ever trophy at this stage. In rugby, St. Peter's Mumia survived an earlier scare to Pip Maseno 15-13. The winners trailed 5-0 at halftime, but turned tables with 2 quick tries that ensured the rugby gong remains in Nzoia region. It was, however, business as usual in basketball. Upper Hill School easily retained the national title with a routine 67-33 victory over Mangu High. The towering Fred Malaki was particularly imperious, showing off with massive dunks from the first minute. His partner Martin Mugambi was named most valuable player. Parklands area, who were looking forward to facing Shimba Hills, found the defending champions in roaring mood. They went down 44-74 as Berry Lakoth of Shimba was named MVP. At the end of the competition, the champions were a fine blend of the usual suspects and new champions. But it is Nakuru region that goes home as the overall winners with a fine haul of 6 team titles. Ferdinand Omondi, KTN, Mombasa.
And it's definitely very nice to see Fadi hanging out with the school champions. And moving on now to some rugby news, defending champions KCB showed no signs of giving away the Great Rift 10-a-side rugby title when they won all their matches on day 1 at the Nakuru Athletic Club. The Bankers secured their quarter-final ticket alongside Western Bulls, Strathmore University, Mwamba, Queens, Homeboys, Mean Machine and Impala. Nicholas Mudimba is in Nakuru and has more details.
Nakuru Athletic Club, the venue of this year's Nakuru Great Rift 10-a-side rugby tournament. On the pitch, it was equally serious business as the holders KCB announced the early intentions of retaining the title in the first match of the day. The Bankers overpowered Bungoma 33-0. The upset of the day came from KCA, who defeated Mwamba 12-5. Impala FC registered the highest score of the day, 64-0. It was against Moi University in Pool D encounter. Queens had an early scare before beating Stoma 17-5. Homeboys floored Masaku 12-0. Mamba registered vital victories against Multimedia and Mean Machine to secure a quarter-final ticket.
The competition is really stiff this year. I can see a lot of Kenya Cup teams have used it as a preparatory tournament for the Kenya Cup and ESS semi-finals coming up in about 3 weeks' time, so it's pretty stiff.
Nakuru is arguably the town to beat this Easter weekend, and the crowd attested to that. The tournament concludes tomorrow and all eyes will be on the favorites. Will they live up to the billing or the underdog will carry the day? But so far, we'll be telling you who will be progressing to the semi-finals tomorrow and of course who will bag the tournament's title. Reporting from the Nakuru Athletic Club here in Nakuru, I am Nicholas Mudimba.
Thank you, Nicholas. And in Machakos, KCB has joined AFC Leopards and Tusker in the KPL Top 8 semi-finals after struggling to beat Ulinzi Stars 2-1 in Machakos. It was a big win for KCB's new coach, Daniel Olwoch, who took over from Abdallah Juma, who was fired earlier this week. Ulinzi lacked the flair and effort to...
Right, we want to wind up our bulletin now with several light moments as the fishing community in Rarieda took a break from normal activities to participate in a unique spectacle, the annual boat race. Now, while only one team carried the day, the enthusiasm of the others was not dampened and they later returned to enjoy the rest of the festivities.
Along the shores of Lake Victoria, fishermen are rarely seen during the day, but on this day, hordes stand out at Camino Ningo Beach in Rarieda constituency. The Easter festivities would not be complete without the annual Easter boat race. Friendly rivalries emerged as teams are constituted, each with its own strategy.
Huwezi enda kwa kifua, lazima uende kwa mganga, ni utapata mshindi.
And then the competing teams were off. They rode as if their lives depended on it. It was not all fun and games, however. As the race took place, officials patrolled the beaches, encouraging locals to register to get their national identification cards.
This constituency, the population is around about 140,000. In the last election,
only 50,000 people registered. That means 90,000 people did not register. And we have identified and seen that the biggest problem is with the fisher community. They don't, like I said, a lot of times they feel isolated. They don't see why they should take part in elections.
And though all the fishermen put in their best, there could only be one winner. Farida, a boat with a team comprising both men and women, pulled up on the shores before the rest to a hearty welcome from supporters and a few sour jeers from the rivals. Every year, the Easter boat race attracts fishermen in the thousands as they take a day off from normal operations.
Fishing is associated with backwardness, illiteracy. We want to demystify all that and tell them, no, this is a profession just like any other. The fact that you participate, you are a fisherwoman, a fisherman, is no reason for you not to participate in the development of your constituency.
The competitive spirit only lasts until the last race ends. Then the villagers settle down to enjoy the rare opportunity to celebrate together. Wilkis Anyabwa, KTN.
Looks like absolute fun that was this Easter season in Kisumu. The boat race is definitely something we should all consider doing during this festive season of the Easter period. Right, we want to wind up our bulletin. We thank you for watching. Edward on Twitter, you say, what inspiring stories today from Job Center to Survivor Series. Keep it up, KTN family. And Michael Olili, you've been raising some important issues, especially after watching Survivor Series, on just the importance of getting yourself insured, and your thoughts tonight are well appreciated. We thank you for watching. We will see you again tomorrow, and here's a reminder now, 50+1 Dugudwa la Uchaguzi. We'll be taking a look at what happened during the 2013 general election on the Inside Story and Jichopebu. That is coming up tomorrow evening from 7 p.m. So do make a date to be with us tomorrow. We'll see you then. Have a good night.